If you're like millions of other people, you've probably done this. You pull out your phone, you tap a few buttons, and then maybe 30 minutes later, hot food, groceries, or, I don't know, a phone charger just shows up at your door.
It feels like magic, doesn't it? Just this seamless connection between wanting something and having it.
Exactly. You, as the consumer, are on the convenient side of that equation.
And because it feels so seamless, we almost never stop to think about the choreography behind it, the logistics, the human effort, the person actually making that magic happen.
And that is our mission today. We are pulling back that curtain on modern gig work, specifically delivery services. We're doing a deep dive into the experience of one person who spent 2 weeks driving part-time for DoorDash in a pretty typical spread-out city in Texas back in 2025.
And this wasn't just a casual thing. It was a methodical experiment. They were trying to really understand the app, market behavior, all the little friction points, the real rhythm of the job.
Yeah, and before we even get into the details, the initial conclusion was kind of interesting.
It was. The overall assessment from this driver was that if you view it strictly as a tool, as part-time work to fill in financial gaps, it's a good gig. They were putting in about 4 to 6 hours a day for this.
Okay, so if the verdict is a good gig, let's unpack that. What were the operational dynamics that made it work? And what did they have to learn to, not just burn out?
Well, we have to start with the number one benefit, right? The foundation of this whole gig economy.
Flexibility.
Flexibility. The ability to just switch the app on when you want and log off when you're done. No boss, no fixed schedule. That's the draw.
It sounds perfect. But as the driver learned pretty quickly, that flexibility can be a trap if you don't have a real strategy.
Oh, absolutely. You can't just log in at 7 p.m. on a Friday and expect to make a fortune. That's not how it works.
So you have to be a student of your local market.
Precisely. You have to experiment. Different times, different zones. You have to figure out where the money is moving, and more importantly, when.
And this is where we hit the first huge surprise, the real aha moment for this driver in Texas, which just completely flipped what you'd expect on its head.
Yeah.
Mornings, not dinner. Mornings were, in their words, king.
Which is so counterintuitive. I mean, you think of a restaurant, you think of the dinner rush, 5 to 8 p.m., that's got to be where the money is.
That's what everyone assumes. But the experiment showed something totally different. The specifics here are key. Getting out of the house around 5:30 in the morning, working from 6 a.m. until about 9 or 9:30, that was a super profitable and consistent block of time.
And if you break down the logistics of it, it actually makes a ton of sense.
Right.
In that early morning window, you have a few things working for you. One, the customer base. You're getting breakfast tacos, these high-value coffee orders.
Stuff for kids' lunches that people forgot.
Exactly. But the second thing is maybe even more important for your efficiency.
The traffic.
The traffic. There's just so much less of it.
Yeah, and that efficiency gain is the real operational secret here. During the dinner rush, you might be idling for 10 minutes at a restaurant, then stuck in traffic for another 5.
But in the morning, you cut those friction points way down. The routes are faster. The restaurants are often more organized. The driver actually found they could do maybe 1.5 times the number of deliveries per hour compared to the evening.
Wow.
So even if the pay-per-delivery is similar, the volume and the speed that wins the day.
Okay, so they nail this 3-hour sweet spot in the morning. But then it dies down. After 9:30, things get slow until maybe 11, so you need a gap filler.
Right. And this is where the really strategic drivers pivot. They have to move beyond just restaurant pickups.
This is where shopping orders come in. And this experiment really highlighted how crucial it is to get good at these. We're talking about groceries, pharmacy runs.
Convenience store items, stuff from hardware stores, anything people need right now. This is how you bridge that gap between breakfast and lunch.
And that's a whole different skill set, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're not just grabbing a sealed bag.
Not at all. Now you're the shopper. It takes organization. You have to communicate with the customer about substitutions. You need to be fast inside the store.
The driver's notes even mentioned having the right thermal bags for cold stuff. Just little things that make you more efficient.
It really is a microcosm of how big this convenience economy has gotten. It's not just takeout anymore.
Well, speaking of that, the most memorable story from the whole 2 weeks was a delivery of a car battery.
A car battery?
A literal car battery.
Yeah.
Not food, not groceries.
Yeah.
And that kind of just shows you the scope of it, right? You realize, wow, for some people, this app is a total lifeline.
It absolutely is. And that kind of leads us right into the learning curve, because to do this well, you can't just be a passive driver. You have to be a logistics coordinator.
Right. And that initial learning period is so important. The steepest part of the curve, according to this driver, was realizing they had a choice, that they didn't have to accept every single order the app offered them.
That's a huge hurdle for new drivers. There's this fear, if I decline too many orders, will I get penalized? Will I miss out on a big one?
So they just accept everything.
And the consequences of that can be just brutal. The driver talked about taking an order that looked okay at first, but it sent them, and I'm quoting here, completely out of your preferred zone across town, sometimes into a totally different city.
And then you're stuck. You spend 45 minutes driving out there, drop off a small order, and now you're in an area with no rest periods.
Exactly. So you have this long, unpaid drive just to get back to a good spot. It's a killer for your time and your fuel.
That feeling of, how did I end up here? So the dynamic has to shift, right? It goes from the app just sending you wherever to you learning how to guide the app.
You're essentially training the algorithm. By declining those low-value, high-mileage orders, you're sending a signal.
A signal about where you want to work.
And what your minimum pay-to-mileage ratio is. You're basically saying no to the things that cost you money and, frankly, your sanity.
And staying in that preferred area connects to safety, too. Especially in a place like Texas, where things are so spread out. The driver had a really strong preference for daytime hours.
Yeah, I mean, the dinner rush might be busy, but driving around in unfamiliar neighborhoods when it's pitch black out is tough.
Logistically tough. During the day, they felt safer, they could get their bearings, find those tricky apartment entrances, see where to park.
That's a huge part of the efficiency equation. You can't be fast if you spend 10 minutes trying to find the front door in the dark.
So let's pivot a little to the non-monetary side of things. Because once this driver started to master the job, prioritizing mornings, training the app, they weren't burning out anymore. And for this person, who usually works from home, the job offered something they called a therapeutic aspect.
That's a fascinating insight. The value here wasn't just cash. It was the benefit of mandatory movement. For so many remote workers, your world can shrink to the space between your desk and your kitchen.
Right. And it's not like just going for a walk, which you can always talk yourself out of. This has a purpose. It has deadlines. It forces you out into the world.
Those brief, required interactions. For them, it was actually a mental health break.
And it also led to them rediscovering their own city, finding whole neighborhoods and streets they'd never had a reason to drive down before.
It turned the job into this kind of local exploration, which again shows that if you manage your expectations, the experience can be really positive.
But we do need to address the elephant in the room. The common complaint that DoorDash, or just gig work in general, isn't worth it anymore.
And the driver acknowledged that there's probably some truth to that, especially if you compare it to how things were, say, a decade ago.
At the beginning, when there was less competition.
Far less. Today, the market is completely saturated. You have DoorDash, Uber Eats, Grubhub, Amazon Flex, Walmart Spark. They're all fighting for the same customers and the same drivers.
Which naturally drives down the pay compared to the glory days.
So, is it still a good gig if you have to be this hyper-optimized logistics coordinator who wakes up at 5 a.m. just to make it work?
And that's where the nuance comes in. The driver's final take on it wasn't just about the hourly rate. It was about the utility.
The immediate utility.
Yes. The value proposition today isn't about getting rich. It's about being able to generate money right now. You turn on the app, you can earn cash that same day to pay a bill, or just give yourself some breathing room.
It's a financial pressure valve. It's not a career path.
And this is where I think the biggest value came from for this driver. And why this is really interesting for you listening to this. It wasn't the money. It was the eye-opening perspective of being on the other side of this convenience economy.
Seeing how the sausage is made.
Exactly. Realizing just how dependent people have become on these services.
Yeah.
When you're the one in the logistics chain dealing with the restaurant, the traffic, the apartment lockbox, you understand the system in a way that is completely invisible when you're just tapping a screen on your couch.
And having that perspective helps you manage your own expectations. A lot of the burnout people feel comes from expecting this job to be something it's not, or something it used to be.
But if you frame it differently, as a source of quick cash, an educational experiment, a break from your home office, the whole experience can shift from frustrating to genuinely positive.
It's a strategic tool, but one that works only if the drivers themselves absorb a lot of that friction, the low pay, the strategic scheduling. That's the trade-off.
So to summarize the key takeaways from this deep dive for you, the listener, there are really three. First, the surprising importance of morning hours for max efficiency and minimal friction.
Second, mastering those shopping orders. You absolutely have to do that to fill in the gaps between meal times and make your day financially stable.
And third, maybe the most critical skill of all is learning to decline orders. You have to train the app to keep you in a profitable zone and avoid those runs that just kill your time and earnings.
So what does it all mean? I think the overall lesson here is that the value of this kind of gig work isn't just measured in dollars and cents. It's in the operational understanding you get of the incredibly complex system that powers our modern convenience.
Which brings us to a final question for you to think about. If the primary value for the driver is flexibility and quick cash, and the value for you, the consumer, is immediate convenience, what are the hidden costs? What logistical or societal costs, congestion, safety, dependency, are being absorbed by the system that both sides rely on but almost never see? Something for you to mull over.
Until next time, keep exploring that source material.
We'll see you for the next deep dive.